Alrighty, Hannah.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of our podcast here at Belvista Studios, where we talk about things instructional design and e-learning. I would like to start off by just doing a little bit of gratitude, Hannah.
Awesome.
What are you grateful for today?
I would say I'm grateful for the amazing connections I have in my life, so the relationships,
Yeah.
and just having the ability to meet new people and continue discovering new humans in the world.
That's
I think
cool.
I've noticed that recently, like speaking like to old friends, that's been amazing, but also meeting new people and even like we spoke to a new person this morning and that was like really cool energy, and
Yeah.
a meetup I went to this week, there were amazing people there. So yes, that's what I'm grateful for.
Nice.
Building connections with new people and
I like
having
it.
the ability to do that.
That's really cool.
How about you?
For me, I'm gonna say it's gonna be like really corny probably, but I'm actually really grateful to be alive. I've just been noticing a lot of less fortunate people out in the world, and just grateful to be here, be functioning as I am, to have the experiences that I have behind me, the family that I have, all that kind of stuff. So I am grateful for that. And in this essence of gratitude, I would like to invite the learners now to take 5 seconds, or not the learners, no, in e-learning mode, the listeners to take 5 seconds to just think about what you are grateful for. So yeah, take 5 seconds now and really feel it, I think. Alrighty, let's get into it. So, you've recently had the experience of being exposed to the world of user experience
Yes.
from their kind of avenue. Like when we learn about it, we really make links like, oh, this is what we do naturally. But user experiences, like they're coming from the web design world, from the product design world, from architecture, so many different industries. It's really cool to get them in together. So I know that you went to a meetup recently and you got to hear from other industries that are very diverse from ours. So what did you take away? Like, what could you say user experience is?
So yeah, the meetup was awesome. There was very inspiring people there, and I think user experience, I found it really interesting because I know we talk about putting your user at the heart of your design. That's something that we're really passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things they spoke about was to do with that. So really understanding your end user and designing for them, not just designing what you think will work for them, but actually thinking about what's going to work for this person and what's going to be the best experience for them. So I guess user experience from what I got from the meetup would be just really focusing on the experience that user is going to have and what do you want that experience to look like.
Yeah.
I think the main parts that came across was spending the time researching, so figuring out what your end user needs, and like looking at what they actually are going to be doing rather than just providing them with information. So figuring out what are the actual actions that they're going to take and how can we find out the information in relation to that.
Yeah.
And then also designing prototypes. So once you've figured out all of the information that you need, you can look at creating a certain product and testing that with your user.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool. And I suppose if you could give examples on maybe from the world of web design, to show that in a practical essence.
Yeah, so an example that we did was we got given a project for ASOS, so their online shopping website.
Yeah, I think I got that app.
Yeah. And the man who was running it basically went through the process of how you would do that. So let's say ASOS came to us and said, look, we want to improve our online shopping experience. We want people to find it easy. So we're looking at how would you achieve that. So that was around figuring out who the end user was. So we spoke a lot about personas, and I know that we do some work with personas. So I found that really interesting. And figuring out before you start your research, who are the people that are actually going to be using that product.
Yeah.
And a question I had, because I find it really interesting, I think with personas, sometimes we need to make assumptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to explore with the group, because I know we really try and get the information from the end user and get the actual concrete factual information from them.
But it's not always possible.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to make assumptions. So I thought, I wonder what it's like in the user experience world. Like, do they make assumptions, or do they only rely on facts? And I spoke to him about that and asked that question. And he said that when he has a persona, he splits it into two parts. So he'll have a part that's assumptions. So he might say, this is who we think they are, this is what we think they'd like doing. And then he also has the facts. So this is the actual information that we've collected that we can use.
Yeah.
And he said, as long as you make it really clear in your research that these are the assumptions and these are the facts, then that's okay. And then you can go back to assumptions. So if there's certain assumptions that you want to get concrete factual information from, you can test that assumption. So he might say, okay, for the purpose of this project, I'm going to test these 3 assumptions, and you figure out a way to test that. So that could be going out to users and asking questions, watching them in their environment. There's lots of different ways you could do it. So building personas around who that end user is. And then once you have that information, using that when you design your product. So he said when he's designing a product and he has that research, he'll have that research front of mind. So he might have a page on his desk that says, this is the end user.
Oh, wow. And
he puts himself in their shoes. So he goes, okay, this is who I am, this end user, and what would my experience be like?
Yeah.
And just like something as simple as having that visually at your desk or wherever you're working can really make an impact to the way that you design.
I've seen that actually, where they'll have like a literal photo of someone, whether it's from Shutterstock or whatever, but they will have the photo of the 54-year-old woman or the 90-year-old man, and they give him a name so that they, instead of like dot points on a piece of paper, they're looking at the human and really connecting with that person. So I think that's a cool thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think one of the things that is really interesting is around the assumptions. Like, if you think of ASOS, like, it's quite easy to go, this is a female, loves shopping, probably has credit cards that are like maxed out, and you can build this real story based on a stereotype, but it is fully an assumption. But it's, I think you got to really challenge that and like ask the right questions, because if you think about who the biggest buyers of cars are, like ASOS is obviously online shopping, so it can be predominantly, you know, centered around this is a woman's kind of place, but guys shop too, they wear clothes. But if you think about buying cars, you know, like you think a car is something a guy would know more about, but I don't know the exact stats, but I've heard something like 90% of car decisions are actually made by females. So it's like, I think you definitely got to check those assumptions and try not to stereotype as much as possible.
Definitely.
What about like the whole, I know you were at the conference recently, and a key theme that you were talking about there is nice to know versus need to know. And from my experience with user experience design, that is really essential to the whole user experience. So like, what have you got to contribute on that?
Yeah, we actually had a conversation that I found really interesting at the meetup.
Yeah. And
it was around only including what's necessary. So I think sometimes when we're designing, we think, oh, we could add this and we could add that and we can make it look really cool and we can give them this option and offer all these extras.
Yeah, because you get excited.
You're like, what can we offer? Like, what more can we give them, or what can we do? But we spoke about how important it is to keep it really simple. So for the example of the online shopping, rather than having stages where it's like, oh, would you like to buy this as well? Or we spoke about an example where, say, for example, you purchased a book and then a part of that checkout process said, hey, like if you purchase this other book, why not buy this extra hand guide?
Yeah.
And people were getting asked
that
this
annoys
question that had
me.
nothing to do with the product they were buying.
Yeah.
And yeah, they realized that people were dropping off at that point and weren't going through with the transaction because they were thinking this isn't easy. Like, why are they asking me these extra questions? It's become too difficult. So I think just focusing on what does that user actually need to do to get through that process, and not putting in too many extras so they get overwhelmed or frustrated and end up just not using the process at all, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It reminds me of a project that I was QAing recently of ours where, we can put unnecessary clicks or unnecessary screens into our e-learning that, like, when we're doing our QA, we try to do it as a user. It definitely comes up for me, and maybe it's because I have like short attention span or whatever, I become impatient. But at the end of the day, I could be a potential user, and I know that I find myself going, this is pointless. Like, you made me have to read too much. You made me have to interact there, and I shouldn't have had to interact. And I know like that might be a pop-up before an activity, and we're just like, well, why do we need the pop-up? Why can't we just have the instructions on the screen of the activity? Even just like if you've got a learning hub and then it's like, there's 3 topics and you click into a topic and then it's a title screen and then it goes to the content. It's like, that's an extra screen, an extra like second of my life that you've just wasted. Like, I know I chose the topic, so give me the content straight away. That's what I want. So that definitely is how I can relate to what comes up when we're doing like the user testing.
I think our time is very precious. Like, we have so much going on in the world. And I know I have, like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I could do this or I could do that. And there's so much grabbing my attention, whether it's like, a new podcast I want to listen to, what's happening on Instagram, what's happening on Facebook, who's messaged me on Facebook Messenger. And I think with all of that happening, like, you really need to, if you want to get people's attention, you have to make it really simple. And if you make the process too hard, they're just going to say, I'll get something else done that's so much easier. And they're going to completely lose interest.
I think that's really, that's definitely for me. I'm like, make my life easier or you lost me. And I think one of the things that we can pick up from the e-learning development world, and those people that actually put development instructions into their storyboard, is around that consistency. So thinking about websites, where does the navigation sit? Like, copy the things that you see out in the world when you interact with your phone. Where do you get the buttons? Where is that consistency being translated into your e-learning design, so that you're not having to click up at the top right to get your next button, and then on the next screen, just because it doesn't fit in with your interaction, it's down on the bottom right or it's over on the left-hand side of the screen. Like, that split second of having to think, how do I get to the next screen or whatever it is? Like, it's so annoying. So you lose your learners. They become disengaged. So I think look at websites, look at app designs, look at book covers for the like title screens that you design, and really look at that consistency from the world around the learner, so that you can really engage them, because it's just kind of seamless. Their learning experience is seamless to their world outside of that.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love the whole getting inspiration from what's out there already. I know the other day, like you said, have a look at like the way apps are designed for a menu screen that we were creating. And just looking that up on Google, like, so many amazing things came up, and I was like, wow, like, there's so much out there already. And it's not necessarily copying, it's just like taking elements from things out there in the world that are already awesome and using that to create something new. But really sticking to what's the way that things are designed now. So if you are creating a website, what do other websites look like? Because if you create a website that's completely different from all the other websites, people are going to go on it and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, how is this website set up? Whereas if you design it how others have designed it, people already have that muscle memory of, okay, this is where this button usually is. This is usually how I find this. And they can navigate through your website in a much easier way. So I think that's really cool, getting inspiration from others out there in the world.
Awesome. What do you think the factors of user experience design, what is it concerned with? What factors is it concerned with?
Well, we did a really cool activity, and it was focusing on 4 different components of user design.
Cool.
And we used the ASOS example and split into pairs and did it together. And I really, really liked the way it was set out, and I think we could definitely use it for our learning solutions.
Yeah.
But it was the 4 C's, so 4 different things that you focus on, that user experience designers focus on.
Yep.
And the first one was components, so that was around what's involved with this end product. So for the example of our e-learning modules, it would be the storyline development file, the buttons that are in the file, the videos that are within it, the LMS that it's going to sit on, and literally every single thing you can think of that's associated to that end product, and to jot that down, because all of that will have an impact over the way you design. And then the second C was characteristics. So that was around what characteristics will that end product have if it's the best version it can be.
Yeah.
So it might be easy to navigate, engaging, it might make people laugh, people can get to it really easily, and you list out all the characteristics it would have. Then the third C is challenges. So what challenges will there be with this product? So it could be, I don't know, with e-learning modules, it might be it has to go on a certain LMS, or like it might be accessibility. So some people might be vision impaired, so that's a challenge. We need to figure out how to design it in a certain way. So listing out every single challenge associated with it.
How would you find those challenges?
Well, I think when you get your project, the client may have some challenges in mind already.
Right, like they would know, okay. And also, I suppose, speaking to the users.
Yeah,
stuff would come up, hey?
Speaking to the users. And I'm thinking with user experience, we spoke a lot about like fixing a product that needed fixing. So it might have been there was already a online shopping form set up, but people aren't finding it easy. Somehow they figured out that it's not the most efficient way of designing that. So a challenge could be, this is the problems that people are having. So people are dropping off at this stage, or people, when they're putting their card details in, it's not working. Like their card details aren't getting accepted. So that could be challenges. If it's a product that's already existing, that could be examples of challenges as well.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and then the last C was characters. So that's around everyone who's involved in the product. So basically the stakeholders. So for our e-learning modules, it'd be the client, the end user, the subject matter expert, us developing it, whoever looks after the LMS and the organization, and just writing down every single person that's involved so you can incorporate that in your design as well. So we did that activity. It was really cool. We wrote down some interesting things, and it was interesting. Every group had a really different view on it.
Really?
So that was part of it as well. Yeah, everyone took it really differently and sort of went at it from a different angle. So he said it just shows how user experience, everyone sees it so differently. So it's about getting as many people as possible to have a say so you can get as much information as you can.
Yeah, wow.
It's really interesting. And then just using that information to design your product in the best way. That's
really cool. Do you have any other like final tips or, I don't know, things that you'd like to share on the topic of how what user experience design is and how it might relate to e-learning or instructional design?
I think it's just about when you're designing, it's very similar to putting a user at the heart of your design, just doing everything in your power to step into the shoes of that end user and going to the effort to really understand what the experience will be like for them. So whether you need to get the end users to test the product or getting them in a room and talking about what the experience is like. And I think it just highlighted not making too many assumptions, or if you are making assumptions, just make sure you know that they are assumptions.
Like label them differently.
I think that's what I learned, like just, definitely label it if it's an assumption. And I think it's just so important. Like user experience is so similar to what human-centered design that we love. And it was just really cool to hear how other people do it and the processes that they have. But it was really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. I know we did I think our first podcast was on human-centered design. So if that user experience, the persona, talking to the end user interests you, go check out that. It was on human-centered design. Thank you, Hannah. I'm like really, I love obviously having these little learning moments with you within Belvista Studios. So thank you, and thanks for sharing to our listeners. Listeners, I hope you have an awesome day. Remember to do your gratitude tomorrow. And if this has added value to your life, please share or comment. Let us know the feedback so that we can improve and add more value to your e-learning and instructional design craft. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.